There's a mode of assessment design that I became familiar with in my years in the testing industry called evidence-centered design that I think is useful in transferring over into instructional design as well. Evidence-centered design says, first of all, define what it is you want to measure on your test, then design a task that elicits those skills or knowledge from the test taker, and then apply your rubric to their performance. How well did they do on it? And then you have evidence. Their performance is the evidence of their competency on those competencies that you defined, and you have a defensible argument about their level of competency. But that can be transferred over into instructional design as well, which is what we did in designing college-ready writing essentials. We defined what it means to be, what the competencies are for college-ready writing. And then we designed the tasks that would allow us to help teach those competencies and give students an opportunity to practice those competencies and demonstrate their competency. And through that demonstration, get an evaluation that gives them feedback so that they can improve and so forth. So evidence-centered design lies at the heart of college-ready writing essentials. The first step was to define the set of competencies that a writer needs in order to succeed at the college level. So we consulted the competencies frameworks that have been developed over the years by any number of institutions and people, the National Writers Writing Project and so forth, and distilled it down into a manageable basket full of competencies: skills and knowledge, behaviors, and awareness. The skills and knowledge part of this has 4 parts. The first is writing process. Competent writers need to know the process for generating an extended research-based academic essay, from planning to drafting to revising to finalizing, and all the many sub-steps within those categories. So that's writing processes. They also need rhetorical knowledge. They need to understand what's being asked of them and who's asking it. So they need to understand the task. What are they being asked to produce? What kind of piece of writing? An essay, a commentary, a narrative, a lab report, a business case. In our case, it's a research-based extended academic essay. So they need to understand the task. They need to understand their audience. Who's going to be reading this? In an academic context, it's usually their teacher, their instructor, their professor, also their peers. But they may have a wider vision of audience as well, people outside the classroom, including perhaps future employers or people making admissions decisions to graduate school and so forth. And then they need to know their purposes. They need to understand their purposes for writing. That is, are you intending to persuade your audience, to inform them, to move them towards some action? But writers also have other purposes as well, such as, I'm doing this project so that I can learn something, so I can develop these skills, so that I can demonstrate my capabilities. So there's a wider range of purposes than just to inform or persuade. And then, so those are the parts of rhetorical knowledge. They also need critical thinking, the ability to read a piece of writing that somebody else has produced and analyze it, offer some critical insight into it, compare it to another piece of writing, and draw out some new conclusion. And also contribute their own original ideas, their own analysis, and build that into their essay as well. So show evidence of critical thinking. And then they need knowledge of conventions. That is, they need to understand that their work in an academic context has certain expectations for presentation attached to it. They need to know how to present an academic paper. Certainly it needs correct grammar and syntax, tone, style, those elements. Also an awareness, formatting, but also an awareness that of the critical role that citing other works plays. So be able to cite other works with fidelity and put your citations into the expected format and all of that. Integrate the work and words of other people in a clear way within your own writing. So that's the knowledge and skills portion. But research also shows that in order to be successful, students need certain behaviors. Personal behaviors, such as a willingness to put forth a high level of effort, persistence, conscientiousness, ability to consistently meet your deadlines, those sorts of personal responsibility kinds of behaviors. And also social behaviors. People learn within a community, and there are expectations around that as well. How do you talk with other people in that context? How do you offer your insights in a constructive way? How do you receive the feedback that other people give you and make judicious use of it? How do you offer constructive criticism on other people's writing and so forth? So those are social behaviors that are also essential to success in college readiness. And then there's awareness. Students need to be aware of themselves as learners. What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? What do they need to work on? What are their goals? What motivates them? And then they need a broader awareness that they are, as individuals, in a relationship with the classroom, with the school they're in, with the society that supports that school, and that within that relationship, who they are matters, their identity, their values, their background, their experience. Who they are matters in that relationship, and they need an awareness of all of these in order to succeed at college level work. So we define this bundle of college-ready writing competencies and put it into a competencies framework that is part of college-ready writing essentials. The idea of evidence-centered design is that the work that a student produces then is evidence, if you've designed it right, is evidence of the competencies that you have articulated and taught and given them an opportunity to demonstrate. And so that supports our argument that in our case, the student that comes out of the College Ready Writing Essentials resource, having produced a completed research-based, extended, authentic academic essay, has a piece of evidence that demonstrates the level of their competency, their readiness, in fact, for college level writing.